The adopted daughter my dad brought home was twisted from a young age, even though I tried hard to teach her during the day about the core values of socialism. She would sneak onto my bed at night. Wearing black silk stockings, she would step on my face. Her voice carried madness. "Stinky little brother, who do you love the most?" Later, I went to a good buddy for advice. Encouraged by him, I confessed to the Siwon before the college entrance exam, but she coldly rejected me on the spot. As a result, I failed the exam due to emotional distress and was kicked out by my parents. Meanwhile, my good buddy relied on his good guy image to marry my sister Yang. When I opened my eyes, I had returned to the time before the exam. Even though I had already been rejected, I couldn't help but smile. This time, I don't want to suffer for love again. I just want to study hard and get into Shinyi University. Live a free and unrestrained life. Only half an hour left before the college entrance exam. My adoptive sister came looking for me. "I'll treat what happened yesterday as a joke. Focus on your exam now. 2 months from now, I'll be waiting for you at Southwest National Defense University." I turned around and looked at the Siwon in uniform, with a cold and serene face, a slender waist and long legs, graceful yet valiant. Seeing I said nothing, she frowned deeply. Only then did I snap back to reality. I quickly picked up my pen case. Time is almost up. I'm going to take the exam now. Graduated and certified in 4 nights. Who would have thought the clingy brother could be so carefree? I didn't care about the Siwon's scrutinizing gaze. I hailed a cab and headed to the test site to give it another go. I didn't want to keep chasing after the Siwon, only to live a wandering life. This time, I want to seize the opportunity and succeed. Get into a good university and live a life of freedom. When I finished the exam and walked out of the hall, the sun was about to set. Reporters waiting outside rushed over. Reporters scrambled to interview this year's exam takers. I tried to avoid them, but a microphone was shoved in front of me. "Comrade Lucchese, we heard you were rejected after confessing yesterday. Did that affect your exam today?" Before I could answer, a lively figure emerged from the crowd. It was an Yichin in a white shirt, with short hair. "Stop asking," he said. "Kay has confessed the day before the college exam and was rejected. He's in a bad state." The familiar Huarur and those unbearable memories flooded my mind again. In my past life, everything I suffered was thanks to this so-called good buddy. He was the one who confessed to me. He was the one who exposed everything. He was the one who caused me to be thrown out by my parents. Later on, I saw Yichin proudly standing next to the Siwon. At that moment, I finally realized the reason he did all of this was because he also liked the Siwon, and my tragic life was just paving the way for his love story. Now that I have a second chance, I pushed Yichin away as he spoke and calmly faced the reporters. Liking someone isn't wrong. Neither is confessing. But none of that will affect me. Not this exam. I'm confident I'll succeed. Thank you to the sunset for shining on me in this moment. My shadow, reflected by the rays, was accompanied by the engine's hum. I walked in the direction of home, the harbor from my past life, that I dreamed of returning to countless times in the middle of the night. "Kaze is back." Suddenly, a familiar and kind voice rang out. I looked up and saw my father standing under the big pagoda tree, where he used to wait for me after school when I was little. Lu Hu looked at his son in front of him. He hesitated for a moment, then said, "About what you told Siwon yesterday. I heard it all. I didn't dare let your mom find out. You foolish child, Siwon. But your sister." I froze, looking at my father's worried eyes. A wave of bitterness surged in my heart. In my past life, confessing to the Siwon brought harsh criticism from others, and my parents were caught in a storm of public opinion. Overnight, their hair turned white. Looking at my father walking ahead, I ran up and put my arm around his shoulder. "Dad, it was my mistake, confusing reliance for love. From now on, I'll only treat the Siwon as a sister." The worry on Lu Fu's face finally eased. The father and son walked into the courtyard. Just as we opened the door, we saw the Siwon standing right at the entrance. Father patted me on the shoulder and said, "Go on in." The sunset tilted, spilling over the Siwon's serene, dust-free face. Our eyes met, and neither spoke for a while. After a moment, I smiled and broke the silence. "Sis, my nonsense yesterday must have worried you. I had a brain freeze. Let me apologize. Don't take it to heart. From now on, we'll be family for life." The Siwon listened to my calm and composed explanation, but an inexplicable anger rose in her heart. Yesterday he held her hand and confessed. And overnight his attitude completely changed. Did he truly let go of his inappropriate feelings, or was he playing hard to get? The Siwon looked at me and said calmly, "It's good you think that way. The college entrance exam is a turning point in life. Your mind should stay focused." I kept nodding with a smile. The Siwon brought out a campus brochure from the room and handed it to me. She said, "Every year, the admission score for Southwest University increases. You need to give it your all to get into your dream school." As I looked down and saw it was a Southwest University recruitment poster, my smile froze for a second. But I didn't say anything. In my past life, my heart was set on chasing the Siwon, so I naturally aimed for the university closest to her, Southwest University. In the end, I didn't win her over and lived a miserable life. Now that I finally have another chance, this time, I'm determined to choose what I truly love. Tsinghua University. I watched the Siwon's back as she returned to her room, but in the end, didn't mention wanting to change my school choice. After all, we'll both live our own lives in the future. No need to talk about it now. I hugged the brochure and returned to my room, turned on the radio, and started reviewing. I immersed myself in subjects I was truly interested in. I didn't come out until dinner. Our family finally gathered around the table again. In my last life, because of rumors, I was too ashamed to come home. Like a beggar, wandering around, this was what I longed for in my past life. Thinking about it, I felt touched and a bit emotional. "Case, what are you thinking about? Did the exam not go well?" Mom added a piece of egg to my bowl, asking worriedly. I shook my head and answered with a faint smile, "No." "That's good." Mom was immediately overjoyed. "As long as you're okay. If you can go to Southwest University, your sister is working in the military over there too. She can look after you." My hand paused on the chopsticks. Mom didn't notice and continued, "Your father and I are getting old. Once you're in college and busy with your studies, you won't be able to come home often. If your sister's there, we'll feel at ease." The words caught in my throat. Still, I didn't speak them out loud. "After this summer, I'll turn 18. I'll take care of myself. Mom, Dad, don't worry." After dinner, I wanted to help Mom clean up the dishes, but she shooed me off to take a shower early. Drying my hair as I stepped out of the bathroom, I saw a familiar figure in the courtyard. The Siwon spoke in a calm voice. "During dinner earlier, you seemed like you had something to say." My hand paused as I dried my hair. In my past life, I followed the Siwon around like a little tail. While she was solely focused on studying, she only wanted to become a deputy officer and fulfill Uncle Yi's mission to defend the nation. She never even noticed the person tagging along behind her. But this time, she actually noticed something was off about me. I smiled softly and said nothing. "It's just that thinking about leaving home makes me a little reluctant." The Siwon looked at her younger brother, who was half a head taller than her. For some reason, he suddenly seemed a bit unfamiliar. I quietly gazed at the starry night sky. It might be hard to find such peace again in the future to enjoy it. A teacher once said, after entering college, "Your hometown no longer has spring or autumn, only summer and winter. The older you get, the fewer times you return home." Neither of us said anything more. We fell into silence. Just then, Mom came over from the kitchen and said casually, "The matchmaker came to see me today. She suggested a match between you and that boy from the Yin family, and Yichin. How about meeting him before you head off to the army?" The Siwon shifted slightly, then nodded in agreement. "Okay, you can arrange it." Lumu smiled at once. "Great. I'll go inform the matchmaker now. We'll set up the meeting with Yichin in the next couple of days. That boy is reliable and familiar to us. If it works out, let's settle it. When you're in the army later on, you'll have someone to take care of you." After Mom left, I saw that the Siwon was about to leave as well. Thinking of Yichin's vicious nature in my past life, I spoke up, "Sis. And Yichin isn't as simple as he seems. Be careful during tomorrow's meeting." The Siwon frowned silently and looked at me. "Case, you've really changed. Yichin is your best friend. You shouldn't slander him like this." Her door slammed shut behind her. I stood where I was. Why didn't I notice in my past life how much she defended Yichin? A hint of helplessness crossed my mind. Looks like I was just worrying for nothing. Forget it. Whoever ends up around her in the future, it's no longer my concern. The next morning, after breakfast, I double-checked my exam permit and pens, then headed to the test site. Once the papers were handed out, the tension on my face finally eased a little. Last night, I made a guess on the essay topic, and luckily, I got it right. This time, I'm confident I can perform beyond expectations. I'll get a great score. I smiled with certainty and determination, then started answering the questions at full speed. Time passed little by little. The bell rang for submitting the paper. All the subjects were finally over. I walked out of the exam room, stretched lazily, and felt completely relaxed. In a great mood, I returned to the village. Just as I reached the entrance, I noticed everyone was looking at me with strange expressions. I had only taken a few steps when those nasty and humiliating words pierced straight into me. That's the Liu family boy, right? He actually confessed to his own sister the other day. How can a morally corrupt person like him be accepted by any university? The Liu family raised such a shameless son. Their ancestors must have picked the wrong burial site. If it were my son, I'd beat him to death. Some people really are thick-skinned, shaming our Fengyang village and still have the nerve to stay here. Hearing all this, I felt like I was plunging into an icy abyss. It was as if I had fallen back into the nightmare of my past life. Back then, after confessing to the Sinwin, the whole village found out overnight. At that time, my mind went completely blank. I was utterly humiliated. By the time I wanted to explain, it was already too late. Nothing I said could fix it. Eventually, even my parents were scolded. Parents are at fault for not teaching their son properly. I clenched my fists tightly at my sides, turned around, stood tall, and faced everyone. I loudly declared, everyone, the Siwin and I are not related by blood. There's nothing immoral about it. Liking someone is not a crime in itself. I was just young and didn't know how to tell dependence from real feelings. But now I've figured it out. No matter who the Siwin marries in the future, I'll send them my blessings. But if anyone dares spread rumors again behind our backs, then don't blame me if I report you for slander. The people around me were stunned by my imposing presence and fell silent. I walked home with a light step. As soon as I entered, I saw Mom coming out of the kitchen with a dish. Everything's ready. We'll eat once your sister gets back. I took the plate from her and casually asked, where did Sis go? Lumu smiled brightly. Your sister finally came to her senses. She's going on a date with Yichin tomorrow. So, she went to town to buy some makeup and dress up. I listened quietly, feeling not much at all. The only thing that surprised me was how much the Siwin seemed to value in Yichin. When the last dish was served, the Siwin also came back, carrying several shopping bags in her hands. Why do you buy so much? Lumu asked with a smile. The Siwin replied, some of it is for you and Dad. Since I'm leaving soon, I wanted to buy something for you. You silly child, you just started working. You should be saving your money for the future. Mom doesn't need these things. Listening to their back and forth conversation, I remained silent, just quietly eating my favorite braised pork. After dinner, I got up and went back to my room. As soon as I entered, I saw a photo frame on my desk. A picture of me and the Siwin, looking at the two smiling faces in the photo. I couldn't help but recall the past. Ever since Dad brought the Siwin home, she had always treated me well. When I was 10, I caught a cold from getting soaked in the rain. She used a hot towel to help lower my fever. At 15, I got lost on the back mountain. The Siwin searched for me all night and carried me home. But later, she joined the military, and our relationship grew distant. Now, the Siwin is about to get married. She's starting a new family, and I'm going to Qinghai University. These memories will eventually fade. I suppressed all my emotions and took out a cardboard box from the closet. I packed away everything related to the Siwin, including the photo of us together. I placed the packed box to the side, planning to throw it all away the next day. The next morning, I woke up and stepped out with the box. Just as the door across from me opened, the Siwin had shed her usual military uniform and was wearing a brand new dress. She glanced at what I was holding and asked calmly, what are you carrying? Some study materials I used before and some old childhood toys. I plan to donate them to the kids at the orphanage. I replied calmly. The Siwin nodded without asking further and headed straight out. But just as she reached the door, she turned back and added, don't forget to tell Mom. I won't be back for dinner tonight. After watching her walk out the courtyard, I looked again at the top of the box. The photo frame of the two of us, face down. The corners of my mouth twitched slightly. How indifferent must the Siwon be to not even notice that it was the only photo of the two of us together. After breakfast, I went out to town by bus, planning to buy some things I'd need for university. I browsed from the north end to the south end of town, checked out several bookstores, and finally found some books introducing Qinghai University. Then as I passed by a pharmacy, I remembered hearing Mom coughing a bit last night. So I bought some Banlangen and syrup. Looking at the bags of stuff I had, I got ready to head back to the village. Just as I passed a gold shop, I saw the familiar figures, and Yichin and the Siwon walking out of the store side by side. Kaze simply responded calmly, I just came to buy a few things. A hint of smugness flashed across Yichin's face. He continued smiling and said that he and Siwon had successfully gone on a blind date. They would be getting married soon. You don't mind, do you? While talking, he kept flipping his hand back and forth, intentionally showing off the watch on his wrist. I didn't look closely. I calmly replied, I don't mind, since I had decided to stay away from them. Whatever happened to them no longer concerned me. And Yichin froze for a moment. He didn't expect such an indifferent response from me. He felt a bit embarrassed. He forced a smile and deliberately said to the woman beside him, We'll be family from now on. Siwon's brother is also my brother. The Siwon looked at Yichin gently and nodded. I just smiled faintly. After what happened in my past life, I already knew Yichin's true nature. In this life, I want nothing more to do with him. I would never consider him a friend again. And Yichin's smile grew even wider. Kaze, Siwon, and I still have some other shopping to do. Why don't you come with us? I've finished, so I'll head back first. I rejected them without a second thought and got in the car to go home. The Siwon stood there watching me leave. Her eyes were silent, dark, and conflicted. In the end, she said nothing. After I got home, I gave my mom the Banlangen and supplements, then went back to my room. I sat down at the desk and eagerly opened a book introducing Qinghai University. I was drawn in by the cultural heritage of the university. Time flew by, and it was soon dark. Then there was a knock at the door. I got up to open it and saw the Siwon standing outside. I saw your lights were still on. Why aren't you asleep yet? I softly replied, I'm just about to sleep. The Siwon looked at the distant man before her and suddenly frowned. She felt that I had been noticeably colder toward him lately. This made her feel an inexplicable sense of frustration. She casually glanced around and noticed a corner of the desk was empty. Where did the photo frame on your desk go? I turned around and looked. A lie slipped out. I accidentally broke it earlier, so I took it to get fixed. For some reason, after hearing this, the Siwon actually felt the noise in her chest quiet down a bit. Then get some rest. Good night. After saying good night, she turned and went into her room. In my previous life, I never dared to lie to the Siwon, because she could always tell. But now, this casual lie, the Siwon didn't notice at all. I gave a self-mocking smile, and then closed the door and went to bed. In the following days, I did nothing but read and wait for the exam results. As for the Siwon, she was out early and back late every day, spending time with Yichin to build their relationship. Days passed like flowing water. Finally, June 24th, the day the Gaokao results were released. I went to school early that morning to check my exam results. Just as I arrived at the gate, a black car pulled up beside me. Lucas, you're here to check your results too. I was going to avoid it, but hearing someone call me, I turned to look. A sweet-looking girl stepped out of the car, a slight smile at the corner of her lips. I thought for a moment it seemed to be Wen Qianyu, a girl from my class. Wen Qianyu was quite prominent, a child of a high-ranking official, but we hadn't spoken much before, so we weren't really close. I nodded politely. Wen Qianyu didn't mind my reserved attitude. She cheerfully stepped forward. Let's go in together. The two of us walked into the old-style office. Then, I received my score sheet. Although I had estimated my score, I still felt a bit nervous at this moment. I took a deep breath to calm my racing heart. I opened the score report and looked down at the total score at the bottom. What caught my eye was the black and white text showing a score of 690. I finally relaxed my tense nerves. I had checked myself. The admission scores for Tsinghua and Peking University in previous years were all around 670. This score is enough to get into Tsinghua or Peking. I'm grateful to teacher Wang. I wanted to hurry home and share this great news with my parents. But I waited, and no bus came. Fortunately, when Qianyu gave me a ride since it was on the way. When I got home and got out of the car, I saw the Siwan walking out of the yard, arm in arm. With Siwan and Yichin, I quickly looked away and apologized to Wen Qianyu in the driver's seat. Wen Qianyu still wore a bright smile. Lucas, if you really want to thank me, come to my birthday party in a few days. I paused and smiled. After Wen Qianyu left, I was just about to go inside when Yichin exaggeratedly spoke up. Case. That was Wen Qianyu just now, right? Are you two dating? She's known to be a playgirl, a notorious rich daughter. Dating her probably won't end well for you. I frowned. Just as I was about to speak, the Siwan's scolding voice interrupted. Yichin isn't wrong. People from families like hers were just not the same kind. Don't associate with her anymore. Besides, you're still young. Mind your boundaries. Don't go out and mess around with people casually. Hearing her words, I felt very uncomfortable inside. I was just getting a ride home from a classmate. How did that become messing around? What right does the Siwan have to say that about me? I looked at her intently, and the words slipped out instinctively, sis. I'm already an adult. Who I befriend is my own choice. After saying that, I walked straight into the yard. The Siwan stood still, staring at my door, her expression darkening. It wasn't until Yichin reminded her that she came back to her senses. I didn't care how she reacted. That night, after telling my parents the score, the next thing was filling out the college preferences. To avoid being discovered, I specifically picked a day when the Siwan wasn't home. I went to the school library to use the computer to submit my preferences. A few days later, I returned the books to the library. On the way home, I ran into Wen Qianyu and her close group of girlfriends. I was just going to say hi and leave. But suddenly Wen Qianyu asked, Lucas, want to go skating? Before I could answer, her friends started teasing from beside her. When the birthday girl wants to go skating today. That's when I realized it was Wen Qianyu's birthday. I didn't want to embarrass her. So just like that, a group of us went to the biggest skating rink in town. Seeing me frozen in place, Wen Qianyu walked over with a pair of skates. Never skated before? Don't worry, I'll teach you. Okay, I nodded. The two of us changed into skates and headed to the edge of the rink. Unexpectedly, on the other side, I saw the Siwan and Yichin on the rink. It surprised me a bit. I didn't expect the usually serious the Siwan would come to the skating rink with Yichin. I calmly greeted her, sis. Wen Qianyu beside me was briefly stunned, then followed up with a greeting. Hello, everyone. I'm Wen Qianyu. The Siwan just gave Wen Qianyu a cold glance. She was about to say something, when suddenly music started playing in the skating rink. Those who had been resting started skating freely again. The atmosphere became lively again, and Yichin, full of energy, pulled the Siwan toward the rink. Siwan, it's starting. Let's go, hurry up. The Siwan, whatever she was about to say, had to be swallowed. She had no choice but to follow Yichin. I smiled faintly and headed to the other side with Wen Qianyu. After all, it was my first time skating, so I was still a bit scared. So, Wen Qianyu held my hand and slowly guided me. While skating with me, Wen Qianyu taught me some important tips. Under Wen Qianyu's guidance, I gradually learned the technique. I asked Wen Qianyu to let go, so I could try skating forward on my own. But I realized I had overestimated myself. Just a couple steps after letting go, I couldn't control myself and started falling forward. Luckily, Wen Qianyu reacted quickly and pulled me back in one swift motion. The next moment, our bodies were pressed tightly together. I could feel her breath. I felt a little uneasy and was about to get up when I caught sight, not far away, of Yichin holding the Siwan around the waist. Bending over slightly, Wen Qianyu saw my expression change and asked if I was scared. Do you want to take a break? I nodded, and we went to the rest area. Wen Qianyu had just opened her mouth to ask how I was, but unexpectedly my skate slipped. I lost balance and fell straight toward Wen Qianyu. She instinctively reached out to catch me. My arms wrapped around her waist instinctively. The two of us collided hard, even closer than before. I could even feel how soft she was. My heart skipped a beat. Just as I steadied myself and was about to thank her, the Siwon's angry voice came from the side. What are you two doing? Wen Qianyu and I slowly separated, and there stood the Siwon, glaring coldly at me and Wen Qianyu. Lucas, in broad daylight. You're hugging a girl in public? Do you even know what you're doing? Do you have any self-respect? Come home with me, the Siwon said as she grabbed my wrist. My wrist hurt, sis. You misunderstood. Just then. And Yichen suddenly collapsed to the ground nearby, crying out in pain. The Siwon's attention immediately shifted to Yichen. She crouched down and asked what happened, and Yichen held his foot and said, I got accidentally bumped just now, and I think I twisted my ankle. As soon as the Siwon heard that, she immediately took off her own skates, helped him up and said, I'll take you to the hospital. Before leaving, she only left me with one sentence. You go home by yourself. I stood there, watching Yichen look back at me with a smug expression. I immediately realized that Yichen had done it on purpose, but the Siwon didn't notice at all. And once again, I was sure of one thing. In the Siwon's heart, Yichen would always matter more than me. Just a moment ago, she was scolding me for being too close to another girl. The next moment, she left me behind for Yichen and let me be alone with another girl. Now she didn't seem to care anymore. Back in my room, I just felt completely exhausted and didn't want to move. I thought I'd lie down and rest for a bit. At that moment, a man's voice came from outside. Is anyone home? Excuse me, is this Lucas's home? I quickly walked out and saw a mailman pushing an old-style bicycle, stopping at the gate. He had a document envelope in his hand. I'm Lucas. Is there a delivery for me? Yes, the mailman said, handing over the envelope. I couldn't wait to open it. And when I saw it was the admission letter from Tsinghua University, my heart was finally at ease. Everything was finally settled. I felt overjoyed and had a really good sleep. When I opened my eyes, the smell of food filled the air, while the whole family was eating. The Siwon came home too. Mom asked, is Bikin okay? Nothing serious, right? The Siwon calmly replied, he's fine. Just a mild sprain. I already took him home. Hearing her words, I just quietly ate my food. I didn't say anything. At that moment, the Siwon spoke again, Mom, Dad. Someone from the military unit asked me to end my vacation early and return. I'll be leaving tomorrow. Though a bit surprised, Dad and Mom Lu still nodded in support. They looked slightly disappointed and said, then the wedding with Yichen might not be settled anytime soon, for some reason. The Siwon instinctively glanced at me, seeing me eating silently, showing no reaction. She suddenly felt a bit stifled and replied after a pause, postpone it. The end of the year isn't too late. Dad and Mom Lu thought for a bit, then nodded in agreement. The Siwon looked at me again and blurted out, your admission letter should be arriving soon too, right? It can also apply to Southwest University. You can go together. It'll be easier to take care of each other. Since you're both going to the same university anyway, you might as well travel together. Dad and Mom Lu both agreed eagerly. I thought of the acceptance letter I received that afternoon and hesitated whether I should speak up. But then Mom Lu continued, turning to the Siwon, Siwon. Once K's arrives in the Southwest, please look after your brother more. I'll feel more at ease. Hearing all this, I held a bite of food in my mouth, but ultimately said nothing. Better not worry, Mom. And keep her up all night. I'll tell them after I get there. The next morning, the whole family woke up early and stood at the door to send the Siwon off. Thinking of the farewell, I still took the initiative to speak, sis. Take care on the road. The Siwon nodded, looked at me, and began lecturing. You don't really understand what kind of person Wen Qianyu is. In the future, you should be more cautious, and school is starting soon. It's time to focus again. Focus more on your studies. Don't fall behind once you get to Southwest University. I listened in silence, neither agreeing nor speaking. But the Siwon kept looking at me, as if waiting for me to respond. I could only nod perfunctorily. Got it. Let her think what she wants. I didn't want to say anything more. The Siwon opened the car door, ready to get in. Suddenly, An Yichen's voice came from a distance. Siwon. The Siwon quickly walked over to help him. Your foot is still hurt. Why did you come? You're leaving for the military today. I came to see you off. I'm not a burden. The two exchanged parting words. I turned around and went into the house without looking back. The Siwon, for some reason, suddenly turned to glance at my back. She felt an inexplicable anxiety in her heart, as if she might never see Lu Kei's again. She found herself ridiculous for thinking that. Before long, once he goes to Southwest University, they'll meet again anyway. After exchanging a few words with An Yichen, the Siwon got into the military jeep and drove off. That day passed by especially fast. In the evening, I returned to my room early and began packing my things. I was leaving here early tomorrow morning. Before reporting to Tsinghua University, I had done a lot of research on the capital and the school. I knew the winters in the capital could be cold, so I packed a few extra warm clothes. While organizing my desk drawer, I unintentionally saw the family photos inside. One was taken when I was very young. That was before the Siwon had joined the family. In the photo, it was just the three of us. The other one was taken with the Siwon a couple of years ago. The family photo had gone from 3 to 4 people, but I only took the photo of the 3 of us and packed it into my suitcase. After packing up, I went to wash up and then went to bed. That night, I slept soundly, without a single dream. The next day, just before dawn, I left a letter in the living room, then left with my suitcase. Everything around was quiet. My parents were still asleep. Before leaving, I looked back at their bedroom. Just one glance, and all the words in my heart became one sentence. Mom, Dad, please take care of yourselves. Then I walked out of the yard with my head held high. Half an hour later, I was on a train to the capital. Images of my past life flashed in my mind, being kicked out of the village, utterly humiliated, treated like a rat that everyone wanted to beat. In this life, I finally didn't repeat that fate. This time, I will live for myself. The morning sun slowly rose over the horizon. I believe what awaits me ahead will be full of light. With a rumbling sound, the train started moving. Because I had gotten up so early, I started to feel drowsy. Half asleep, half awake. I felt like I was leaning on someone's shoulder. I instantly woke up. When I looked to the side, I saw a familiar profile. Wen Qianyu, why are you here? When Qianyu turned and looked at me. You're awake. Of course, just like you, I lost my guardian. But what a coincidence you got into Tsinghua too. I was quite surprised. When Qianyu smiled and nodded, just like that, the two of us traveled to Tsinghua University together. Meanwhile, Dad and Mom Lu woke up as usual and started making breakfast in the kitchen. The table was set, but I still hadn't come out of my room. Mom Lu wiped her hands and went to wake me up. But she noticed the door wasn't closed. She pushed it open, only to find all my usual things were gone. Even the bed was neat and tidy, but I was nowhere to be seen. Mom Lu felt a sudden panic. She immediately spotted a letter placed on the desk. She shouted in a panic, "Old Lu, come quickly, your son is gone." Lu Hu rushed over as soon as he heard the commotion. What do you mean he's gone? As soon as I came in, I saw Lu Mu handing him a letter. She urged, I found this on the desk. You recognize more characters than I do. Hurry and open it. Lu Hu looked down at the envelope. On it was written, to Mom and Dad. He quickly opened it and took out the letter. It read, Mom and Dad, by the time you read this letter, I should already be on the train to the capital. I never told you, but I received an admission letter from Tsinghua University, not Southwest University. Forgive me for leaving without saying goodbye, but please don't worry. I'll take good care of myself. Once I've settled down at Tsinghua, I'll call or write to you. Don't worry, Kaze. After reading it, a trace of surprise flashed in Lu Hu's eyes. Kaze went to Tsinghua. He's already on the train now. Mother Lu was stunned. Isn't Tsinghua the same as Southwest? Even Saiwa thought he was going to Southwest. What is this child thinking? No, I have to call Saiwa. She turned to leave as she spoke, but Lu Hu stopped her. Kaze has already gone to Tsinghua. There's no point telling Siwon now. Kay said once he's settled in. He'll call us. We can ask him then. Lumu thought for a moment and had no choice but to agree. Meanwhile, in the Southwest Army, the Siwon, the captain of the elite training camp, was busy training a group of rookie soldiers. Suddenly, she felt a strange anxiety in her heart, as if she was losing something. Something important. The Siwon frowned, and the image of me suddenly surfaced in her mind. She shook her head. Kaze is about to come to Southwest University. We'll see each other again very soon. How can I possibly lose him? He completely forgot that I said I wanted to go to Qingbai. After the Siwon figured it out, she adjusted her mindset and focused on completing her training tasks. After training ended, the Siwon went to the market to shop. Lu Kaze is coming, so he shouldn't come empty-handed. Thinking of getting Lu Kaze some daily essentials and supplies. After carrying a bunch of stuff back to the family housing, she ran into the army wife next door. She looked at what the Siwon was carrying and joked, "Captain, you bought so many household items. Is your brother-in-law coming to join the unit?" The Siwon was stunned, but she didn't refute it. Instead, she felt a strange hint of joy in her heart. Days passed one by one. Finally, it was the start of the semester at Southwest University. The Siwon specially asked for leave from her superiors and drove to Southwest University. She stood by the side, her eyes constantly scanning the students entering through the gate, afraid of missing anyone. At that moment, she thought she saw a familiar figure and was about to go forward when a surprised voice called out behind her, "Siwon, are you waiting here just for me?" The Siwon turned around and saw Yichin carrying luggage, smiling brightly at him. She looked around and realized Yichin was alone, so she asked, "Why are you alone? Didn't Kaze come with you?" A glimmer flashed in Yichin's eyes. Surprised, he said, "You didn't know. Kaze already went to Qingbai with Wen Qianyu." The Siwon was completely stunned. She heart felt like it had plunged into an abyss. Her mind went blank. No way. How could that be? Kaze always wanted to go to Southwest University. How could he suddenly? The Siwon's words were cut off. Because she remembered what I had said to her before. "Sis, I want to go to Qingbai to study linguistics. I want to be a teacher. That suits me better." She had always thought. She thought all those were just Lu Kaze's jokes, things he said when he was close to Yichin. But in fact, those turned out to be his true thoughts. And he had already made them come true. He actually kept it a secret, left for Qingbai without anyone knowing. The Siwon couldn't accept this outcome. She had to find Kaze and get to the bottom of it. She turned and walked toward her car, but Yichin grabbed her. "Siwon, I just got here. I don't know anyone or any place here. Can you stay with me?" But before he could finish speaking, the Siwon brushed his hand away. "Handle it yourself. I've got something to do. I'm leaving now." With that, she got in the car and drove off, and Yichin looked at the departing car with frustration. He clenched his teeth, feeling extremely unwilling. But the next moment, he smiled again, then turned and walked into the gate of Southwest University. It's all right. Now he's the one close to the Siwon, with the advantage. Lu Kaze is already far away in the capital. From now on, no one can come between him and the Siwon. Meanwhile, after the Siwon returned to the family quarters, she quickly called the village office of Fengyang. While waiting for Lu's father or mother to answer the call, her heart was a mess. She didn't know what kind of answer she wanted to hear, but she also knew no answer would satisfy her. Because the outcome she wanted most seemed impossible now. Just as she was lost in thought, Lumu's voice came from the other end of the line. "Siwon, are you doing well in the army?" The Siwon nodded. "I'm fine. No need to worry. I called to ask about Kaze. Did he really go to Qingbai?" "Yes, that kid secretly left the day after you did. He only left us a letter." When Lu's mother heard that, she still felt a bit upset. The Siwon's eyes darkened. She asked again, "Has he contacted you since? Any phone calls or letters?" "Not yet. Your dad and I are still waiting to hear from him. But we should get some news in the next couple of days. Mom, if Kaze left a phone number or address, could you please let me know?" The Siwon's voice was somewhat restrained, tinged with a trace of pleading. Lumu thought it sounded a bit strange, but didn't question it. She just nodded and said, "All right, I will. I'll let you know." After the Siwon hung up the phone, she felt breathless. No matter how she thought about it, she couldn't understand why Luke suddenly went to Qingbai. Didn't he like him? Didn't he say he wanted to always stay by his side? When Qianyu's face suddenly popped into her mind, the Siwon felt a sharp pain in her chest. Could it be that she had really fallen for Wen Qianyu? No way. These 3 words flashed in the Siwon's mind, startling even herself. Buried feelings that even she didn't realize she had were now starting to surface. This left the Siwon feeling lost, but she was beginning to understand her true feelings for Luke. At the same time, at Qingbai University, I had already completed the enrollment process. I was assigned to dorm 502 in Building 5. When I entered the dorm with my luggage, no one else was there. I was the first one to arrive. After organizing my suitcase, I thought I should call home to let them know I was safe. So I went out to find a phone booth. Just after dialing the number, I heard Lumu shouting on the other end, "Luke, you've got some nerve. How dare you sneak off to Qingbai behind our backs?" I held the receiver away from my ear. After a while, I brought it back. "Mom, I told you before, I wanted to go to Qingbai." Lumu immediately responded, "Even so, you should have told us first. You can't just leave without saying a word." I paused before answering. "I'm sorry, Mom." "Sorry," I said, and Lu's mother didn't seem so angry anymore. She asked me about how things were going at Qingbai. Then, as if remembering something, she asked, "Can you give me a phone number or address, in case we need to contact you?" So I told Mom my address. When I entered the gates of Qingbai again, when Qianyu had told me, and also gave me the phone number. After I finished, I read the number aloud to Lumu. We chatted for a little while longer before hanging up. When I returned to the dorm again, there were already a few people inside. When they saw me, the guy on the bed next to mine was the first to greet me. "Hi there, are you the roommate assigned to the bed next to mine?" "My name is Mushang." I smiled and nodded. "Nice to meet you. I'm Luke." The other 4 also introduced themselves in turn. And just like that, all the members of dorm 500 had arrived. Mushang was an outgoing and lively guy, and also a local from the capital. He immediately opened up and started chatting. He told us all about fun places in the capital. "When there's time, I can take you guys around to explore. How about during National Day?" he suggested. Although the others weren't from the capital, they lived fairly nearby. So they all shook their heads and said they might go home for the holiday. Finally, Mushang looked at me. "You're not going home too, are you?" I hesitated for a moment, thinking that I had come to Qingbai without telling the Siwon. He would definitely come looking for answers. If I went home for National Day, I might actually run into him. But I didn't really want to see him now. After thinking about it, I shook my head. "No, I'm not going back for the holiday. You can take me around the capital then." "Sure thing," Mushang said, smiling as he patted me on the shoulder. "Then it's a deal. This year there will be a military parade. We can go watch it together." I nodded in agreement. It sounded like a great plan. I nodded again. After that, everyone in my dorm officially began their life at Qingbai University. According to tradition, every batch of new students must participate in the welcome ceremony. This time it was organized by dormitories. Each dorm had to put on a performance. Except for Mushang, the rest of us stayed in the dorm to discuss what to do. Then suddenly, Mushang burst in. "I know what performance our dorm should do." Everyone looked at him. "We can collaborate with the girls' dorm to do a ballroom dance." As soon as he said that, no one had any objections, because they all knew how to dance, and also knew that ballroom dancing was popular among university students. Only I, who came from the countryside, didn't know how. Mushang noticed my hesitation. "It's okay if you can't dance. I can teach you." In the end, I nodded reluctantly. I came to Qingbai to improve myself, to build a brighter future. So I decided to start with learning to dance. Then everyone gathered to discuss the plan. Suddenly, I thought of a question and asked Mushang, "Which girls' dorm are we collaborating with?" Mushang slapped his forehead. "Right. I almost forgot. If you're free now, let's go find them." Everyone nodded, and just as we stepped outside the dorm, someone shouted from the hallway, "Is Luke from room 500 to hear? There's a phone call for you at the security office." I froze. Someone called me, but I just called home a couple of days ago. Could something have happened at home? I started to panic a little. I told Zhao Mushang, I'm heading to the security office first. I'll come find you later. Zhao Mushang nodded, okay. We'll probably be at the gym or cafeteria. Got it. I nodded and ran toward the security office. I picked up the receiver on the side and held it to my ear. Mom, Dad, did something happen at home, Case? It's me. When I heard the voice from the other end, I was stunned. That familiar voice left me stunned. I didn't expect the Siwan to contact me so soon. I stayed silent for a while before speaking. Sis. On the other end, the Siwan heard my voice over the phone. The agitation in her heart seemed to subside. But thinking about what I had done before, her frustration deepened. She couldn't control her voice, which carried a trace of anger. Case, don't you have anything you want to say to me? There was silence on the line. It made the Siwan even more uneasy. Just as she was about to speak again, she heard my voice. Sis, I've already said everything I wanted to say before. I'm already at Qingbai now. You don't need to worry about me anymore. From now on, you and Yicheng can just be happy together. Hearing that, the Siwan felt a tightness in her chest. So it's because of him that he didn't finish. Because I interrupted him. That's not important anymore, sis. Even though we're siblings, we each have our own lives. I've already found my goal in life. You don't have to worry. Hearing the calmness in my voice, the Siwan felt uncomfortable. She realized that the boy on the other end had already distanced herself from her, but she was also gradually realizing the feelings she had buried deep down inside. Yet she didn't know how to express them. Since she said nothing more, I didn't want to linger on the past either. So I spoke again. Sis, I still have things to do. I'll hang up now. Goodbye. And without waiting for a response, I hung up the phone first. I stood there for a moment, combing my emotions, then turned and left the security office, following Zhao Mushang's directions. I found them in the gym. When I arrived, I saw pairs of guys and girls practicing together. They had already started learning. When Zhao Mushang saw me, he immediately waved. Case, over here. I quickly walked over, but those girls each introduced themselves. After that, Zhao Mushang told me, I know you're not good at this, so I had left the best dancer for you. As he spoke, he looked around. His hand pointed to a girl walking toward us in the distance. That's her. I followed the direction he pointed. A slim girl in a white dress, wearing a ponytail, was walking toward us. He immediately recognized her. It was Wen Qingmian. With a slight smile in his voice, he greeted her. It's you. Wen Qianyu looked surprised to see me too. She raised an eyebrow and said, yeah, what a coincidence to run into each other here. Zhao Mushang, standing by, looked back and forth between the two of us. You to know each other. I smiled and said, yeah, we come from the same place. Zhao Mushang nodded. That's great. Since you know each other, it should be easier to work together. Then he looked at Wen Qianyu and said, I'll leave Case to you. Wen Qianyu nodded. Don't worry. When Zhao Mushang went to practice nearby, I finally spoke up a little awkwardly. Wen Qianyu, I really can't dance at all. Wen Qianyu reassured me, it's okay. Don't feel pressured. Just leave it to me. After that, Wen Qianyu started teaching me ballroom dancing step by step. She held out her hand. Put your hand on mine. Then just follow my steps. Wen Qianyu held my hand, guiding me to step forward and back. Then she had me raise my hand, and Wen Qianyu herself spun a few times along with the momentum. At that moment, my foot slipped a little, and I couldn't keep my balance. I fell backward onto the ground. I cried out in surprise. I thought I was going to fall to the ground. Frightened, I tightly shut my eyes. But after a moment, I didn't feel any pain. I even heard Wen Qianyu's voice in my ear. How long do you plan on having me hold you? I suddenly opened my eyes wide. I realized Wen Qianyu had caught me with her hands. I hadn't hit the ground. Our eyes met, and she was smiling. My ears instantly turned red. I quickly stood up and gently pushed her away. Thank you. Wen Qianyu pulled back her hand. It's nothing. Shall we continue? I nodded. This time, I was extra careful. Luckily, I didn't fall again. I let out a sigh of relief. Wen Qianyu, standing beside me, looked at me like this, and couldn't help but chuckle. You don't have to be so tense. Dancing is supposed to be fun. You need to relax and enjoy it. I nodded and said, got it. I'll try my best. Just then, Mushang came over and asked how the lesson was going. Seeing that I didn't know how to answer, when Qianyu spoke up, don't worry. With me here, he won't hold the team back. I'm not worried at all. Case, don't feel any pressure. Mushang looked at me and said. I nodded with a smile and said, got it. That's enough for today. Let's go eat. As Mushang spoke, he called out to a few others and headed to the cafeteria. During the meal, Mushang suddenly remembered something and asked, Case, was that a call from your family earlier? My chopsticks paused. It was my sister. You have a sister. How old is she and where is she now? Mushang's gossip mode kicked in. He kept asking me nonstop. I found it a bit overwhelming. I didn't want to keep talking about the Siwon either. When Qianyu, sitting across from me, noticed my expression, she quickly changed the subject. Luke, classmate, there are only a few days left until the welcome party. You really need to keep practicing. You can come find me anytime too. I live in building 1, room 401. When Qianyu added casually, Mushang didn't ask about the Siwon anymore. I breathed a sigh of relief. I quickly agreed, all right. Let's finish eating first. Then if you're free, keep teaching me. When Qianyu glanced at me and said, okay. After that, everyone else had things to do and left. I followed when Qianyu back to the gym to keep learning dance. Time passed little by little. In the blink of an eye, the welcome party arrived. When it was our turn to go on stage, I suddenly got nervous. When Qianyu, standing beside me, leaned in and said, don't be afraid, I'm here. If you're really nervous, just don't look at the audience while dancing. Just pretend you're still in the gym. I took a deep breath, okay. During the performance, I followed when Qianyu's rhythm. Stepping forward and back, spinning together, we moved in perfect sync. As I gradually relaxed, I accidentally glanced at the audience. It was packed with people. My heart suddenly panicked. My steps became chaotic. I accidentally stepped on Wen Qianyu's foot. She sensed my nervousness, quickly pulled me close and placed my hand on her waist. Her own hand rested on my neck. Her head spun with my momentum. Just follow me, we're almost done. We were standing very close. I could even feel her breath. It made my heart beat faster. My face instantly turned red like an apple. It wasn't until thunderous applause came from below the stage, and we all stepped off together, that the redness on my face still hadn't faded. Mushang looked at me and asked strangely, Case, why is your face so red? Don't tell me it's because when Qianyu spun around in front of you. I was a bit embarrassed, looked down and said nothing. When Qianyu next to me just smiled without saying a word. The welcome party ended smoothly. Because of the dance, I formed a deep friendship with Wen Qianyu and his dorm mates. After that, everyone focused on their studies. Aside from classes, we spent most of our time in the library. I often ran into Wen Qianyu there. Gradually, we got closer. As time passed, many people started saying we were dating. Even Mushang came to ask me, Case, are you really dating Wen? I was startled by the question. I quickly shook my head no. I just happened to see her often in the library. Don't spread rumors. But since even Mushang said that, others were even more likely to misunderstand. The next day, I ran into Wen Qianyu again in the library. I made sure to keep my distance from her. Unlike before, during breaks, I no longer listened to her talk about aerospace. When Qianyu was majoring in aeronautics and astronautics, she quickly noticed that I was acting strange, and immediately thought of the rumors going around. She looked at me and gently said, Case, there's no need to care about what others think. Even if we were dating, it's no one else's business. I knew what she said made sense, but the trauma from my past life still lingered. It was because of rumors in my past life that my entire life was ruined. So now, I didn't want to fall into that kind of whirlpool again. I was about to tell Wen Qianyu that I'd rather just study in the dorm from now on. Wen Qianyu was stunned. She looked at me, frowning, as if he wanted to say something. But in the end, she said nothing. After realizing how much I cared about romantic rumors, We started to deliberately limit our interactions. After a while, the gossip finally stopped. I felt relieved, and I immersed myself fully in studying. Time passed by like flowing water, and before I knew it, it was National Day. Everyone else in the dorm went home. Only Zhao Mushang and I stayed behind. Zhao Mushang told me there would be a military parade this National Day. Let's go watch it together. Sure, the National Day parade doesn't happen every year. The last one was 5 years ago. Now that we're in the capital, we definitely have to experience it. The two of us instantly agreed, but as soon as we left the school gate, we ran into Wen Qianyu. She looked surprised to see me. You didn't go home? Where are you headed? Before I could answer, Zhao Mushang jumped in. We're going to Tiananmen to watch the parade. What a coincidence. So am I. Let's go together, she said, looking at me, as if afraid I'd say no. I nodded, and then Zhao Mushang and I got into Wen Qianyu's Lamborghini. By the time we arrived at Tiananmen, it was already packed with people. Zhao Mushang and I exchanged looks. Our eyes said, now what? Follow me. You won't see much from here, Wen Qianyu said, then took us to another place. When I stood right up front and could see the entire parade, I looked at Wen Qianyu in disbelief. I suddenly remembered hearing at school that his grandfather held a military post in the capital. No wonder he could find such a good spot. Zhao Mushang was already dumbfounded. Wen Qianyu, who **** you really? How did you even get us such a spot? Wen Qianyu just shrugged nonchalantly. It's nothing. The parade's starting. But I noticed Zhao Mushang's gaze toward Wen Qianyu had changed. There was something else mixed in now. I felt a little uneasy, but I didn't overthink it. I turned my attention to the parade instead. With the sound of salutes firing, Tiananmen Square filled with the rhythmic sound of marching footsteps. Rows and rows passed right before us, looking at their high spirits and determination. I was deeply moved. My heart was surging with emotion. Then came a pair of soldiers in green military uniforms. I watched intently. Suddenly, my gaze locked onto the figure leading them, a tall and heroic silhouette. My eyes widened as I stared in disbelief. That familiar figure walked past in step. It was her, the Siwan. She actually came to the capital and even participated in the parade. For a moment, my mind was a mess. My eyes were blank. Case, did you hear what I just said? I felt a light push on my shoulder. I snapped back to reality, then looked at Zhao Mushang. What were you thinking about just now? I said I was a bit thirsty. Let's go get some water. Sure, I nodded. As I turned my head, I met Wen Qianyu's eyes, and they held a hint of scrutiny. Wen Qianyu had seen the Siwan too. And then, she immediately noticed my unusual expression. Back in Fengyang, she had already sensed something different about the two siblings. Wen Qianyu frowned, but didn't ask me directly. After all, it was my personal matter. Still, she couldn't help but feel a bit uneasy. The three of us returned to school after the parade. As Zhao Mushang and I got out, we said goodbye to Wen Qianyu. We watched as she drove away. Just as I was about to head back to the dorm, I suddenly heard Zhao Mushang say, Case, I've decided to confess to Wen Qianyu. When I heard that, I nearly tripped over my own feet. I stared at Zhao Mushang in shock. It took me a while to make a sound. What did you say? Zhao Mushang grabbed me excitedly. Case, I think I've fallen for Wen Qianyu. I'm going to write him a love letter. You have to help me. What? You're the top student in our Chinese department. Help me write a love poem. I'll give it to Wen Qianyu, okay? As he spoke, Zhao Mushang dragged me quickly back to the dorm. I hadn't even reacted yet, and I was already sitting in front of the dorm desk. A pen was shoved into my hand, and a blank sheet of paper was already on the table. I finally snapped out of it, immediately put down the pen and refused. I can't do it. Don't ask me. Seeing I was really unwilling, Zhao Mushang stepped back and said, then I'll write it myself. But at least help me check it after I finish, okay? I reluctantly nodded. At that moment, the dorm door was knocked on. I quickly got up to open it. It seemed to be someone from the dorm next door. He said to me, Are you Luke Hayes? Someone's looking for you at the gate. You should check it out. I froze. I don't know anyone in the capital. Who would be looking for me here? Suddenly, a familiar figure in military uniform popped into my head. Could it be him? Did he come looking for me this quickly? I took a deep breath. These things have to be faced eventually. Better to talk it out early. Once it's said and done, we can go our separate ways in peace. After telling Zhao Mushang, I headed toward the school gate. The Siwon saw me from afar. She saw me wearing a white shirt, looking very spirited. My whole demeanor radiated youthful energy. Lucchese no longer seemed like the little boy who followed behind her in Fengyang village, calling her sister. The Siwon's eyes dimmed. Her heart felt a sudden suffocation, looking at the somewhat haggard woman before me. I called out, "Sister." The Siwon smiled and said, "Case, I have something I want to say to you. Let's find a place to sit." I nodded, then led her to the small park, not far from the school. We sat together on a shady stone bench, but neither of us spoke. The Siwon thought about how ever since he hung up on her last time, her heart had felt like it was being pricked by needles, a dense, constant pain. Her mind was full of him, but she didn't know what to do. She even thought of going to the capital to see him, but had no idea what she would say. Later, Southwest University was holding military training for freshmen, and she was assigned as the chief commander. During that time, Yichen kept hovering around her. Back in Fengyang village, she didn't feel much about it. After all, she was the one who agreed to the arranged date. But when Yichen started acting like her fiancé as if it were natural, she felt uncomfortable for the first time. It was also the first time she thought about not marrying Yichen. She began to distance herself from Yichen, intentionally or not. After he noticed, he looked hurt and asked, "Siwon, I feel like you've been distancing yourself from me. Aren't we engaged?" The Siwon was silent for a while before saying, "Yichen, about our engagement, I think we still need to reconsider it." "Why?" And Yichen questioned her insistently. "I know I've wronged you, but I've made up my mind." The Siwon didn't want to drag things out anymore, because she gradually realized who she truly cared about in her heart. And Yichen looked at her expression and suddenly asked, "Is it because of Lucchese?" The Siwon remained silent, and Yichen let out a cold laugh. "He's your brother. There's no way it can happen. Besides, he's already gone to the capital. Do you really think he'll look back?" The Siwon sensed from his tone that he was hiding something. "Are you hiding something from me? Do you know why he suddenly went to Qingbai?" "I do." "So what? You two could never be together anyway. I'm doing you both a favor." Now the Siwon fully understood. Lucchese had grown distant from her suddenly, because of Yichen. She stared at Yichen with icy cold eyes. "What exactly did you do?" "I just told him." "You confessed to him, but what truly made him give up was your arranged date with me. He thought you and I were in it together." Hu Ali's breath trembled. "So that's how it was." "That's why he confessed one day, then apologized the next, saying not to take it to heart, and then said he was going to Qingbai. She misunderstood him, and she had let down her feelings. Now that she knew his true feelings, she just wanted to apologize to him. She even thought that as long as she didn't back down, she could face the world and be with him forever. After that, she returned to the military unit and learned that she would represent the unit in the capital for a military parade. She was so excited she couldn't sleep. She even applied to stay and study at the capital military region for 6 months. I sat silently beside her, the Siwon fully immersed in her own thoughts. I didn't want to waste time here with her, so I spoke up. "If you have nothing else to say, I'm leaving." That one sentence instantly woke the Siwon up. She quickly grabbed me as I was about to get up. "Don't go." "Case." I was stunned because of how clingy the Siwon sounded, as if I were her lover. I shook my head, pushing away such unrealistic thoughts. Looking at the Siwon, I asked, "What exactly do you want to tell me?" The Siwon looked at the boy she had watched grow up. She never expected to develop feelings for him. If she had realized it earlier, maybe she wouldn't have rejected his confession. And perhaps, she wouldn't have agreed to the blind date with Yichen. Now that she understood her feelings clearly, maybe it wasn't too late. "Case, everything before was my fault. Now I know exactly how I feel. I like you too. But before she could finish, I suddenly stood up, my eyes full of disbelief, with a trace of undeniable mockery. The Siwon's next words got stuck in her throat. She couldn't say another word. After a long pause, the Siwon finally found her voice again. Case. I meant every word I said. I've made up my mind, as long as I can be with you. I took a long time to suppress all the emotions inside me and cut her off directly. There's no need. I've already moved on. You'll only ever be my sister from now on. Besides, have you forgotten? You're supposed to marry Yichin at the end of the year. The Siwon quickly explained. I've already cleared things up with him. And I'll explain to Mom and Dad too. You don't need to feel burdened. Looking at the determined the Siwon in front of me, I doubted my judgment for the first time. No matter what the Siwon did, it always seemed like she only thought of herself. She rejected me harshly just because she didn't like me. She wouldn't even let me like her. She even went on a date with Yichin right in front of me. Now that I've left, she suddenly thinks she loves me. Then without hesitation, she abandoned Yichin. Just like how she once abandoned me for Yichin. Just like that. Suddenly, I felt a deep sense of isolation in my heart. I looked at the Siwon and said clearly, word by word, I'll say it again. I only feel sibling affection for you now, nothing more. As for you and Yichin, I don't care. I have things to do, so I'll go now. After saying that, I didn't want to deal with the Siwon anymore and turned to leave. I had just taken one step when the Siwon grabbed me again. I know you're just saying that out of anger. I was wrong before. I'll make it up to you double. I couldn't help but roll my eyes. I wondered if the Siwon really couldn't tell the difference between good and bad. I didn't want to say anything more. I broke free from her grip and walked forward. But in the Siwon's eyes, she thought I still had feelings for her and was just being stubborn out of spite. She smiled indulgently and caught up to me. Case, I've already been approved to study at the Capital Military District for 6 months. I'll come visit you whenever I'm free. We'll be able to see each other often now. I felt a bit uneasy inside. I truly didn't understand what the Siwon was thinking. When I liked her, she rejected me completely. When I finally gave up and didn't want to look back, she came clinging back again. Her change exhausted me. I didn't know how to deal with it. At the gates of Qinghai University, I told the Siwon, go back. I'm going in now. I said it without waiting for her reply, and turned to walk inside. But after only a few steps, someone grabbed me forcefully. I turned around, annoyed, and asked, what do you still? But when I saw who it was, I was a bit shocked. Before I could react, Yichin had already bang landed a heavy punch square on my face. Lucas, you piece of trash. Do the professors at Qinghai know how shameless you are for seducing someone else's fiancé? Yichin deliberately raised his voice so everyone could hear. The students and teachers around all turned to look. Everyone stopped and looked this way. My eyes immediately turned red with anger. That suffocating feeling of being slandered from my past life came flooding back. I steadied my emotions, trying hard to defend myself. I said, Yichin, stop spreading lies. I can report you to the education authorities. You might not even be able to keep your student status. Yichin suddenly became even more arrogant and started yelling, everyone, look. He clearly seduced my fiancé. And now he's threatening me to shut up. The Siwon shouted angrily and rushed over. If looks could kill, Yichin would have died 1,000 deaths already. He was filled with deep regret at that moment, for ever misjudging him, and for thinking he was a good person. The Siwon stepped in front of me and whispered, why don't you head inside first? I'll handle things here. I shook my head. If I left now, I would never be able to clear the slander hanging over me. Seeing the Siwon protect me, Yichin was filled with jealousy. His words became even more reckless. The Siwon, I'm your fiancé. And you're protecting him. The people around us started whispering, pointing at me and the Siwon. My face turned pale. I absolutely couldn't let Yichin keep talking. It had taken so much to get here, and I couldn't let him destroy my reputation now. Just as I was about to speak, a familiar voice suddenly rang out nearby, brother-in-law. Take a good look, that's Case. He's your fiancé's younger brother, not your love rival. I looked up in shock. It was Wang Qianyu walking over. She then stood beside me and greeted the Siwon. Siwonji, you're here too. Then she looked at me. And seeing the bruise on my face, her eyes flashed with anger. Who hit you, Lucas? Can't you fight back? She reached out with concern, trying to touch my cheek. The Siwon frowned at the scene before her. Instinctively, she reached out to stop him, when Qianyu leaned in closer to her and quickly whispered, "Hurry and take that guy away. Do you want Lucas to get expelled from Qingbai?" The Siwon hesitated, glanced at me, and immediately dragged the still confused Yichen toward the gate. After they left, when Qianyu said again, "Everyone, don't mind him. That man is Kei's brother-in-law. He has some mental issues. Because Kei and his sister are close, he often sees him as a rival." With that, he pulled me into the campus. From the moment when Qianyu called Yichen brother-in-law, I was stunned. I only came back to my senses when pain tingled on my face. I snapped back to reality, thinking about what had just happened. Then looking at the girl beside me, I said, "Thank you for helping me just now. Do you have medicine in your dorm? Your face needs to be treated quickly." When Qianyu still had a frown on her face, I nodded. When Qianyu didn't say anything else, we headed toward dormitory building No. 5. A moment later, I realized that when Qianyu seemed a bit angry, I asked tentatively, "Are you mad?" When Qianyu looked at me with that innocent look on my face, and got even angrier, "Are you an idiot? Someone hits you and you won't even fight back. And that so-called gentle sister of yours, I can only say your taste is terrible. She couldn't even protect you while standing next to you." When Qianyu's words were sharp and it felt like her eyes were spitting fire, startled, I asked, "How did you know I didn't finish my sentence, but I believed when Qianyu had already figured everything out. I never expected her to know. I have eyes, don't I?" When Qianyu snapped, "Back in Fengyang village, I already knew you treated him differently. That's all in the past now. From now on, she's just my sister." I quickly defended myself. When Qianyu froze, she stared at me intently. Her gaze made me feel uneasy inside. Just as I was about to say something, when Qianyu suddenly leaned in close, her voice was laced with charm. "Since it's already in the past, how about dating me instead?" I stopped in place, wide-eyed, staring at her. We looked into each other's eyes, neither of us looking away, until a complicated voice interrupted nearby. "What are you two doing?" Zhao Mushang had been in the dorm writing a love poem. Then he suddenly heard from a roommate that I was being slandered at the school gate. He immediately dropped his pen and rushed out. But downstairs, he saw me, standing very close to Wen Qianyu, the two of us staring at each other, like we were in love. His heart instantly sank. He broke our gaze by speaking up. I snapped back to reality, quickly pushing Wen Qianyu away and looking at Zhao Mushang. Thinking of what Zhao Mushang had said earlier, I quickly tried to explain, "Mushang, it's not what you think." But before I could finish, Wen Qianyu interrupted. "Why do you need to explain to him?" Her tone was sharp. Zhao Mushang stepped forward, staring firmly at Wen Qianyu. "Because I know I like you. I want to date you." At that moment, I could feel Wen Qianyu's gaze piercing through me like needles. I didn't dare meet her eyes. Just as I was trying to find an excuse to slip away, a male student walked toward me. "Lucas, the office wants you to come by." I was startled and immediately understood. It was about what had happened earlier at the school gate. Even though the rumor was cleared up by Wen Qianyu's few words, as a top university in the country, they still needed to verify the full truth. "I'll go with you." When Qianyu immediately spoke up, Zhao Mushang, standing beside us, saw this, and his eyes darkened. But he also said, "I'll come too." And just like that, the group of us headed to the administration office. I went to the office alone. When Qianyu and Zhao Mushang were waiting outside, Zhao Mushang looked at Wen Qian beside him. "You asked, do you like Case?" When Qian turned to glance at him, she didn't speak, but nodded. "But I can tell. Case doesn't feel the same way about you." Zhao Mushang continued. When Qianyu frowned, then smiled slightly. "I know. But now doesn't mean forever. I have confidence." Zhao Mushang fell silent for a moment, then finally said, "I can tell. You're from a privileged background, not an ordinary person. Even if you're with Case, will your family approve of you marrying a guy from a regular family?" When Qianyu looked at Zhao Mushang, her eyes were slightly critical. So you're not really into me? You're just after my background? She looked at his plain clothes, thinking he must be the same as her. Zhao Mushang lowered his eyes. Sorry. When Qianyu cut him off. In my family, there's no class divide. If I like someone, and he's a kind man, my family won't oppose it. She thought for a second and added, if you don't want this, you can say no. This is a new era. It's not the feudal times anymore. Zhao Mushang suddenly looked up at Wen Qianyu. There was a glimmer in his eyes, as if breaking free. Can he really say no? That's when I came out of the office. When Qianyu stepped forward, she asked worriedly, how was it? They didn't give you trouble, right? I looked relaxed, smiled and shook my head. No, I've explained everything clearly. Thinking about it, I added, I'm planning to write a complaint letter to Southwest University for Yichen slandering me. I won't let him off. Alright. When Qianyu showed her support, then I looked at Zhao Mushang, who was lost in thought. I walked over and nudged him. Mushang, what's wrong? We can go now. Let's go. Zhao Mushang snapped out of it instantly. Back in the dormitory, I saw the absent-minded look on Zhao Mushang's face and assumed he was still thinking about what happened with Wen Qianyu. He quickly explained, Mushang, when I was with Wen Qianyu earlier it wasn't about you. But before I could finish, Zhao Mushang cut me off. Case. Sorry. I deceived you. I was a bit confused. The reason I said I wanted to pursue Wen Qianyu wasn't because I liked her, but because of her family background. Zhao Mushang looked at me, his expression confused and downcast. I grabbed a stool and sat next to him. My voice was gentle. It's okay. Take your time. From Zhao Mushang, I learned his father was a general in the capital's military district. He had been oppressed by his father since childhood, taught that he could only marry into a similarly privileged family. Even being able to study at Qinghai University, he had to fight hard for that bit of freedom. He had struggled to earn even that. So, when he found out that Wen Qianyu came from a similar background, that's when he suddenly said he wanted to pursue her. I never imagined. Zhao Mushang looked so cheerful and carefree, like someone without worries, but he actually carried so many burdens. Mushang, what I want to say is, this is a new era. People have the right to choose their own marriages. If you're unwilling, you can talk it out with your family. It's your life. You should be the one to decide. Don't let anyone else influence you. That's something I only realized after a painful past life. Zhao Mushang looked at me and suddenly said, no wonder Wen Qianyu likes you. He told me the same thing. I chuckled. How did he end up saying exactly what I was about to? But then Zhao Mushang suddenly hugged me, disrupting my thoughts. His voice choked with emotion. Case. Thank you. I know what I need to do now. I reached out and patted him on the back. It took him a while to calm down. Zhao Mushang let go of me. His eyes were a little red, but he had a smile on his face again. Just as I breathed a sigh of relief, I heard him say, Case, do you really not like Wen Qianyu? I hadn't thought about it. Right now, I just want to focus on my studies. I once loved the Siwan for so many years, but it ended in disappointment. Now, whether I like someone or not doesn't matter as much anymore. I just want to expand my knowledge and experiences and fight for a brighter future for myself. During the last few days of National Day break, Mushang took me around to many places in the capital, most of the time Wen Qianyu was with us too. But the Siwan and Yichen didn't appear during that time. I don't know how the Siwan dealt with Yichen, but that no longer concerns me. A few days after the holiday ended, I went back to my routine of running and spending my days in the library. Wen Qianyu was still around, but I didn't deliberately avoid her like last time, because if I denied what had happened at the school gate earlier, it would likely stir things up again. But I felt like I should explain things clearly to Wen Qianyu. So I found a chance and said to her, Wen Qianyu, people have been misunderstanding our situation. If it's troubling you. I frowned slightly. I haven't figured out what to do yet. So I stopped there. I couldn't think of a good way to deal with it either. Wen Qianyu looked at my conflicted expression and sighed. That day, I acted on my own and said those things. I was afraid you'd mind, but I'm happy that you gave me the chance to stand by your side. I saw the affection in her eyes. I pursed my lips. I may not feel the same right now, but thank you anyway. I understand. It's okay. I'll keep trying. I believe you'll change your mind. When Qianyu said with confidence, I didn't know what to say. So I stayed silent. After clearing things up, it felt more pleasant to be around each other. Time passed little by little as we studied. Half a month later, I was walking to the library with a book in my hands. Suddenly, my doormate came running over. She said, "Case." I just answered a call in the guard room and saw a woman in military uniform asking for you. I nodded, "Okay, I'll go right away." Saying that, I headed to the entrance. I figured it was the Siwon, probably here to talk about what happened with Yichin. But when I got to the gate, the Siwon wasn't there. It was a woman in uniform I didn't recognize. I hesitated, then walked up. "Hello. My name is Lucas. Were you the one looking for me?" The unfamiliar woman nodded immediately. "Yes, I'm Captain Z from the training team. I'm here to take you to her." I asked, puzzled. Why didn't she come herself? The team leader is in the hospital now. What happened to her? Why is she in the hospital? As for the details, it's better if the team leader tells you herself. Do you have time now? I thought for a moment. I didn't have class later, so I nodded. I'll go to the hospital with you. At Anning Hospital, when I pushed open the ward door, I saw the Siwon lying on the bed with her eyes closed, resting. Hearing the sound, she opened her eyes and saw that it was me. A flash of joy appeared in the Siwon's eyes. She hurriedly got up, but the movement tugged at a wound on her back, making her wince in pain. I quickly stepped forward and supported her arm. At close range, I looked at the wound on her back. It looked like she had been beaten. Your injury. The Siwon grabbed my hand tightly, Case. No one will stop us from being together anymore. Can you give me another chance? I was shocked. I was just about to speak, but the Siwon spoke again. I've already broken off the engagement with Yichin and explained everything to my parents. They're no longer against us. I stared wide-eyed at the Siwon. It took a moment before I could speak. You told your parents about this. The Siwon held my hand tighter. I know you still have a knot in your heart about my rejection. So I took all the consequences upon myself. I just hope you can forgive me. Case, I really do love you. So this injury really is from being beaten, I murmured, suddenly feeling a bit blank in the head. Back then, when she rejected me, so firmly, so righteously, she told me I would always just be like a brother to her. But now she turned around and went straight to her parents. But I've already moved on. I no longer need her love. So everything she did didn't really move me. I just felt at a complete loss. Even worse, I felt a deep sadness from within. In my past life, I fought for love with the Siwon too. I stood my ground in front of my parents. But in return, I was thrown out of the house and lived a miserable life. Yet for the Siwon, they let go and even supported her. And no one ever once asked me what I wanted. At that moment, all I felt was a chilling coldness. The Siwon looked at my silence, and her joy slowly turned to unease. She looked at me intensely and said, Case, aren't you happy from now on? She didn't finish. Because I interrupted her. I had already hidden my emotions beneath a calm exterior and asked coldly, what exactly did you tell them? That not one of them thought to call me. The Siwon then carefully began explaining the whole situation to me. It turns out that day, the Siwon, after dragging Yichin away from Kingbai's gate, he was sent back to Southwest University. Meanwhile, the complaint letter had also arrived there. After investigation, Yichin was expelled from Southwest University. It caused a huge scene in Fengyang village. Even his parents came to the Liu family to cause trouble. The Siwon rushed back in time and revealed the whole truth. And Yichin completely broke down. In front of everyone, he pointed at the Siwon and said, The Siwon, can you really say you had no selfish motives? You used me as a scapegoat just to cover up your shameful relationship with. Shut up, and Yichin. Now that things have come to this, you know perfectly well who was scheming behind the scenes. The Siwon angrily cut him off. What happens between me and Case is our Liu family's business. It has nothing to do with you. And if you dare speak, I won't hold back either. I can even talk about what happened between you and that senior of yours. And Yichin saw the warning in the Siwon's eyes and looked a little guilty. He actually knew about that. There was a senior at Southwest University who liked him, and because the Siwon never responded to his feelings, he went to that senior for comfort. Even his train ticket to the capital was arranged by that senior. In the end, and Yichin didn't dare say anything to outrageous. Not long after, she was sent to stay at her grandmother's house, a few roads away in Fingyang village. After dealing with Yichin's matter, the Siwon came clean with Mr. and Mrs. Liu. She directly knelt on the ground, startling Father Liu. Siwon, what are you doing? Mom, Dad, I have something to tell you. It might be hard for you to accept, but it's how I truly feel. Father and Mother Liu looked confused. What is it? I'm sorry, Mom and Dad. I've let you down. My feelings for Kaze aren't just familial. I love him. That one sentence was like a bomb, dropped right in front of Mr. and Mrs. Liu. What happened next was predictable. The Siwon knelt for a whole day and night. In the end, her parents didn't say much. They just told her to get up. The Siwon knew that while they didn't approve, they weren't objecting anymore either. After hearing the Siwon's explanation, I didn't know what to feel inside. Even though the Siwon had done a lot, I no longer wanted to look back. I looked at the Siwon and said, Sis, let me tell you his story too. A trace of confusion flashed in the Siwon's eyes, but mostly, it was unease. She had thought that once she dealt with Yichin and got past her parents, my heart would be free of obstacles, that I'd happily get back together with her. But from beginning to end, there wasn't a single smile on my face. The Siwon's heart was in turmoil. The wound in her chest named panic only deepened. Without waiting for the Siwon to say anything, I began speaking on my own. I told her everything I experienced in my past life, starting from my hopeful confession and ending with my lonely death in a foreign place. After I finished, I closed my eyes. Bit by bit, I buried all my emotions deep inside. Looking at the Siwon, my gaze calm and gentle, I said, I'm sorry. I've already let you go. From now on, we'll only be siblings. The Siwon's heart felt like it had been struck with a massive hammer. Even his lips turned pale. Kaze, I was foolish before. I didn't realize how I truly felt. I'll change in the future. Can we start over? At that moment, I felt a quiet sadness in my heart. If in my past life, the Siwon had said these words to me too, would I have avoided a life of misery that followed? In my past life, the Siwon didn't love me. Now, she says she wants to be with me. Isn't that just human nature? The things we can have always stir our hearts. But if that's truly the case, then I really pity my past self. In this life, I will never look back again. But I don't care about that anymore. Since I've decided to move forward, there's no need to dwell on the past. Having come to terms with everything, I told the Siwon, get some rest. I'll come visit you again later. After saying that, I turned to leave, but the Siwon grabbed my arm. Kaze, just because of one story, you're going to give up on me. I paused. My voice held a hint of sorrow. What if I told you it wasn't just a story, but something I actually experienced? After saying that, I pulled my hand free from the Siwon's grip and left the hospital room without looking back. The Siwon stared at my back as I left, her heart aching unbearably. She had clearly arranged everything so perfectly. So why did she still end up losing me? She refused to accept it. She didn't want to give up. Kaze liked her so deeply before. How could he just let go like that? As for that story, the Siwon felt uneasy in her heart. But she didn't believe in superstitions or ghost stories. Her top priority now was to recover. Kaze had a soft heart. If she treated him wholeheartedly, she was sure she could win him back. On the other hand, after leaving the hospital, I didn't return to school right away. Instead, I found a public phone booth and called home. This time, it was Lu who picked up. We were both silent for a while. I spoke first, Dad. How are you and Mom doing? After a moment, I finally heard Lu Hu's voice on the other end. Your mom is sick, but it's nothing serious. You don't need to worry. I suddenly felt a wave of sadness. I realized the Siwon must have told them everything. It wasn't easy for parents to accept this kind of thing, but what I didn't understand was why they compromised. Still, I wanted to tell them my side and make things clear. Dad, I'm sorry about me and... But before I could finish, Lu Hu interrupted me, saying, We won't interfere in your matters anymore. Your mom and I have decided to stay out of it. Even if you don't come back in the future, it's fine. We can take care of ourselves. Hearing Lu Hu's tired voice, I couldn't help but ask, Dad, Mom, why aren't you against it? Lu Hu was silent for a moment and then said, that day was the first time I saw Siwon like that. It reminded me of her biological father. I feel guilty in my heart, so that's why, Dad. Please listen to me. When I told you I would always treat her as a sister, I truly meant it. That's also a big reason why I insisted on coming to Qinghai University. After I finished, there was silence on the other end. Case, tell me clearly, what exactly is going on between you and Siwon? Lu Hu's voice grew louder. Dad, I've already explained everything to her. We'll always just be family, I said firmly, without room for doubt. But Siwon, Dad, you and Mom just need to take good care of yourselves. This is our own matter. We'll handle it ourselves. We didn't go back for National Day this time, but I promise we'll all come home during the New Year holiday. In the end, Lu Hu said nothing more. He just replied, all right. After hanging up the phone, I thought of the Siwon. I hope she wouldn't overthink things. No matter what, I didn't want my parents to worry about me anymore. By the time I got back to school, it was already evening. When I arrived at the dormitory, I saw Wen Qianyu pacing back and forth downstairs. I walked over. Wen Qianyu. Before I could finish, she cut me off. Her voice was full of urgency and concern. Where did you go? Do you know I was worried about you all afternoon? I'm sorry, something urgent came up. I went to the hospital. I apologized and explained. You went to the hospital. What happened? Are you sick? When Qianyu looked me over from head to toe, I shook my head. No, not me. It's my sister. When Qianyu froze, she's still in the capital? She didn't go back. She applied to study at the military district here. She probably stay for another half a year. When Qianyu's expression worsened after hearing that. She didn't say anything either. I could feel her emotions, but didn't know how to respond. After thinking a bit, I said, from now on, wherever I go, I'll let you know. When Qianyu's eyes lit up, she nodded. Okay, I'll head upstairs first. There are no classes tomorrow afternoon. I'll be at the library. I added, I have one class in the afternoon. I'll come find you later. When Qianyu immediately replied, she watched me go upstairs, her mood improving greatly. Even though I hadn't given her an answer, she could feel that I didn't have no feelings for her at all. Given time, she believed she could win me over. Back at the dorm, everyone else was there, but the bed next to mine was empty. I asked the others if Mushang hadn't come back yet. A roommate said he seemed to have gone home after class. I nodded. Figured maybe there was some urgent family matter. Didn't think much of it. I just grabbed my books and sat at the desk to read. When night came, I did a simple wash and went to bed. At the same time, the Siwon was already asleep in the military hospital. But she wasn't sleeping soundly. It seemed like she was dreaming. She dreamed of Lu Kei's confessing to her. She rejected him. The next day, she went to the Southwest Military Unit, but Lu Kei's failed the college entrance exam. And his confession became widely known. Kei's mother fell ill from anger. She rushed home overnight, but when she got there, Kei's had already been kicked out of the house. No one knew where he went, although it was his mother who drove him out in anger. When the Siwon found out, it was just angry words. And she didn't really intend to drive her only son out. She thought that after a few days, Kei's would come back on her own. But day after day, year after year, Lu Kei's never returned. His mother died with regret, and the Siwon, lost in endless longing, finally realized her feelings. But the boy she had protected since childhood never came back. And from that point on, the Siwon felt a hole in her heart that could never be filled. This sense of desolation and fear startled the Siwon awake. She gasped for breath. In her mind, the events of the dream replayed over and over. It felt too real, as if she had actually lived it. Suddenly, the Siwon recalled the story Kei's had told her earlier that day. It matched her dream perfectly. What if I told you it was all from my real experience? Kei's words flashed through her mind. The Siwon's eyes were filled with shock. So it was because he had lived through it that he apologized the day after confessing, telling him not to take it to heart, that he wanted to come to Qinghai. giving up the closer Southwest University. Just thinking of it made the Siwon's head ache. She frowned tightly. Memories that didn't belong to her kept colliding in her mind. They didn't stop for a long while. Eventually they ceased. This time, the memories in her mind became clearer. So K's really had lived two lives. The clearer his past life became, the more the Siwon's heart ached. No wonder K started distancing himself after the exam. He didn't show the slightest reaction when I confessed. He even rejected me. In his past life, K's died in resentment. It all eventually had to do with him. Now that K's knows the truth himself, it's all too clear, knowing there was no chance between them still. The Siwon felt a sharp pain in her heart. Staring at the moonlight outside, the Siwon could no longer sleep. Meanwhile, I knew nothing at all. I slept soundly. The next day, my roommates and I went to class, but we never saw Zhao Mushang. A flicker of doubt crossed my eyes. Did something serious happen to him? Something really bad. Since school started, he's never skipped class. But this time, there's been no sign of him. Even by noon, we hadn't seen Zhao Mushang. I even went back to the dorm to check. He hadn't returned. Suddenly, I had a really bad feeling. Even when reading at the library, I couldn't concentrate. My mind kept wandering. I wasted nearly an hour. When Qianyu saw my state and gently asked, "What are you thinking about? You haven't flipped a page in a while." I looked at Wen Qianyu and said, "You're here. I haven't seen Mushang all day. And he didn't show up for class either. I'm a little worried." "Don't worry. He's not a kid anymore. He wouldn't." Just then, two girls nearby started whispering. "That boy just now was really pitiful. He finally got into Qingbai, and his father told him to drop out." Yeah, it's the modern era now. Yet they're still saying, starting a family and career early is the right path. That boy seems to be from the Chinese department. I think his name is Mushang or something. Hearing this, I abruptly stood up, startling the two girls. I asked, "Where is the person you just talked about now?" "He's probably at the administration office." As soon as I heard that, I took off running. When Qianyu grabbed my still unpacked books and followed after me, she followed me as well. The library was a bit far from the administration office, and we had to pass through the main gate. Just as I rushed past the gate, I was suddenly pulled back by Wen Qianyu behind me. They were over there. I stopped and turned my head to look. I saw Zhao Mushang being dragged by a tall man toward a car parked nearby. I hurried over, calling out Mushang, but I still couldn't stop him. By the time I ran to the school gate, the car had only left behind a trail of exhaust. I suddenly stopped in my tracks. My heart sank instantly. I asked Wen Qianyu beside me, "Will I ever see her again?" When Qianyu was silent, she didn't know either. I only paused for a moment, then continued walking toward the teacher's office building. "Where are you going?" "I'm going to find the teacher. She must have the address of that unfamiliar household." Just as I took a step, Wen Qianyu stopped me. "You're going to her house?" When she met my resolute gaze, her next words disappeared instantly. "Forget it. I'll go with you." A smile curved at the corner of my lips. "Thanks." When we got the address from the teacher, we immediately went to Zhao Mushang's house. When we got out of the car, I looked at the courtyard in front of me and took a deep breath. Then I stepped forward and knocked on the door. It was a while before someone inside responded. When the courtyard door opened, I saw a middle-aged woman who looked somewhat similar to Zhao Mushang. "Hello, my name is Lu Casey. I'm Mushang's classmate. Are you his mother?" The middle-aged woman nodded. She looked at me with some wariness. I gave her a gentle smile and said, "Annie." But before I could finish, I heard Mushang's defiant voice from inside. "Hit me if you dare. Otherwise, I'm definitely going back to school and leaving this suffocating home." Upon hearing that, the woman ignored us and ran inside, crying and shouting, "Don't hit him. He's our only son. Aren't you trying to kill me?" I followed Wen Qian and abandoned through the door. As soon as we entered the room, we saw a middle-aged man furiously holding a rattan stick, swinging it toward Zhao Mushang. I didn't think twice. I just rushed over and hit him. When Qianyu's face turned pale, "Case." Zhao Fu saw a white blur flash before his eyes and thought it was his wife. He quickly pulled back the force of his swing. He was about to scold her. But then he saw standing in front of him a strange boy about the same age as his son, a complete stranger. He frowned. Who are you? Why are you in my house? Zhao Mushang was also shocked, seeing the boy standing in front of him. Case, why are you here? Seeing that the rattan didn't hit me, I broke out in a cold sweat. Hello uncle, my name is Lu Case. I'm a classmate of Mushang. We're strangers now. He won't be going to school anymore. Of course there won't be any classmates. Just leave and don't come back again. Zhao Fu directly gave the order. But I didn't move. I calmly asked, Uncle, can I ask why? I sent him to school to make him obedient, not to let him slander me. If he can't behave, what's the point of schooling? Dad, do you really want me to get married that badly? I said. Even if I rely on myself alone in the future, I can still live well. Why can't you just believe that? Zhao Mushang argued back. Everyone gets married. I want you to marry early, to someone from a suitable family. I'm doing this all for your good. Listening to the father and son's conversation, I understood where the virtue lay. Zhao's father actually loves his son too. It's just that his mindset is still stuck in the old days. I looked at Zhao Fu and smiled. Uncle, I know you love your son too. You want him to get married, so that his future life will be secure. But is marrying early really the solution? Must marriage be between matching families? What if after marriage, the partner treats Mushang badly? Then what? Who dares bully my son? Zhao Fu said in a low voice. But some harm can't be seen with the naked eye. Instead of marriage, shouldn't we first learn to stand on our own? To be able to take control of our lives. Isn't that better than just getting married? After I finished, the room fell silent. Everyone was looking at me. Zhao Fu looked at me thoughtfully, a complex look flashing in his eyes. Uncle, there's really no need to make Mushang drop out of school. You could let him stay in school and observe how he does. If he can show that he can live well, without relying on anyone, then wouldn't marriage and marrying someone of equal standing not be as important? Zhao Fu let out a cold snort. Now I finally understand why Mushang suddenly dared to accuse me. He learned all of that from you. What? Are you not planning to marry in the future? Would your parents agree to that? I shook my head and smiled. Uncle, you misunderstood me. I'm not against marriage. I also hope to have a family, but I won't place all my hopes on marriage alone. Compared to others, isn't relying on oneself the most dependable? Zhao Fu fell silent, lost in thought. Seeing his father's attitude begin to soften, Zhao Mushang quickly stepped forward and said, Dad, please believe in me. I promise you, in the future I'll make a good life for myself. Zhao Fu finally let out a sigh. He didn't say anything more. Zhao Mushang finally let out a sigh of relief. I looked at him and smiled. We left the Zhao family courtyard. Zhao Mushang hugged me tightly. Case, thank you so much. From now on, you're my lifelong friend. I smiled too and patted him on the back. But then I heard him gasp in pain and cry out. What's wrong? I asked. Zhao Mushang explained. Even though you blocked my dad's strike just now, yesterday I still got whipped. It really did hit me once. It still hurts now. I frowned a little. Why don't we go to the hospital first, get some medicine, then head back to school? The withdrawal paperwork for your schooling can wait. Don't worry, I didn't get the withdrawal processed. I just need to go to class directly. That's good. Then let's go to the hospital now. When Qianyu, who had been quiet, finally spoke up. Wen classmate, thank you too for today. Zhao Mushang looked at Wen Qianyu with a big smile. Wen Qianyu waved it off, indicating not to worry. Then the three of us went to Enin Hospital together. While we waited for the nurse to treat Zhao Mushang, Wen Qianyu pulled me to the side. She sounded very stern. Lucas, when that cane came down just now, why did you rush up to block it? Do you not value your life? I looked innocent. I don't know either. It was really just a reflex. When Qianyu grew angrier, you're seriously going to be the death of me? I nodded quietly. Got it. I won't do it again. Seeing me so obedient, when Qianyu's heart softened, she was about to say more when a familiar voice interrupted. Case. When Qianyu and I looked over at the same time, it was the Siwan standing not far away watching us. seeing me getting close with another girl, especially a girl from Fengyang village she already knew. The Siwon felt very uncomfortable inside. She wanted badly to walk over and separate the two, but ever since she had that dream last night, she knew she no longer had the right. The Siwon walked up to me and asked, "Why are you at the hospital again? Are you sick?" "No, my friend is injured," I replied, nodding at the Siwon case. "Let's find a place to talk." Seeing the emotion in my eyes, the Siwon felt deeply troubled. Then she added, "About the story you told yesterday, I have something to say." I froze. What did she mean by that? Could it be she remembers the past life too? I followed the Siwon to a pavilion outside the hospital. "What did you want to tell me?" The Siwon looked at me intently. It took her a while to speak. "Case, I'm sorry. I've remembered everything from our past life. Because of me, your life was ruined. I'm really sorry. For some reason." Hearing those words made my eyes instantly redden. It was like everything I experienced in that life was waiting for this moment. The Siwon saw my teary eyes and didn't know what to do. "Case, don't cry. It was my fault. Your sister's fault. Will you forgive me?" Tonight, the Siwon called herself sister. I froze again. "Case, after remembering our past life, I know we can't be together anymore, but please don't distance yourself from me. I can always be your sister." "All right," looking into the Siwon's warm eyes. For a moment, it felt like the sister who used to dote on me had returned. I smiled faintly. "All right, you will always be my sister." The Siwon curled her lips into a smile, but bitterness filled her heart. She gently raised her hand and reached out cautiously, gently patting my hair like she used to, and I didn't resist. Inside, I gradually let go of my resentment from our past life. The past is already in the past. The future will be better. But this scene of the two reconciling looked very different in Wen Qianyu's eyes from afar. She thought I had gone back to accepting the Siwon. Seeing the smiles on our faces, she felt deeply disappointed. A flicker of anger also welled up. Anger at me for still not learning my lesson. Afraid I'd fall back into the trap of rumors again. Seeing us walking side by side, Wen Qianyu couldn't hold it in. She walked up to me and said, "I need to talk to you." I was stunned. Sensing something off in her tone, I glanced at the Siwon and said, "I'll go now." The Siwon nodded, a flicker of pain in her eyes. But in Wen Qianyu's eyes, she thought I was reporting even this small matter to the Siwon. It made her even angrier. The Siwon watched the two of us walk away, one behind the other, her heart filled with endless sorrow. She stood in place for a long time, before finally saying to the soldier behind her, "Let's go. We're going back to the other side of the base." I followed Wen Qianyu to a corner at the end of the hallway. Looking at Wen Qianyu's dark expression, I asked confusedly, "What's wrong with you? Why are you so angry? You're getting close with that sister of yours again." I froze, immediately realizing what she was mad about. Suddenly, it felt like something hard inside me had crumbled. I raised my brows. "So, you're angry just because of that? What do you think? Did you forget what happened at the school gate?" When Qianyu was clearly furious, her eyes filled with frustration. She stared at me intensely, her voice full of disappointment. "Can't you just look at me? Why do you keep making the same mistake by choosing him?" Seeing the sorrow on her face, I couldn't bear to tease her anymore. "You misunderstood. I didn't choose him." When Qianyu was still immersed in, she was lost in sadness, wondering if she should let go or follow her heart and win him over. Suddenly, my gentle voice sounded in her ear, startling Wen Qianyu slightly. Then, joy burst from her eyes. "What did you say? You didn't accept him. We were just clearing things up earlier." "No matter what, she will always be my sister." When Qianyu felt like she was coming back to life again, she let out a deep breath of relief. At this moment, she knew with absolute clarity she couldn't live without me. So she stepped forward to stand before me, her gaze burning. "Case, I really like you. Can you give me a chance to be with you?" Looking at the girl in front of me, scenes of the two of us together flashed through my mind. My heart softened completely. I realized I wasn't indifferent to Wen Qianyu. It's just that I had given so much to the Siwon in the past, without getting the response I deserved. I had become afraid. Now that the past is behind me, Maybe it's time to hold on to the one who's always been good to me. Maybe I should seize this chance. I scratched my ear and finally nodded. When Qianyu's eyes lit up, she was so happy she couldn't even speak clearly. Case. You agreed, didn't you? I bravely met Wen Qianyu's gaze and nodded firmly. Wen Qianyu was visibly emotional, but her hand still hesitantly reached out to hold my hand, hanging at my side, when she wrapped both my hands in hers. Wen Qianyu felt completely fulfilled. Case, I'll definitely treat you well from now on. Standing there with Wen Qianyu, we shared a few close words. Then I pulled my hands away and said, let's go. Mushang should be done getting treated. Wen Qianyu nodded, the smile on her face never fading. Just as the two of us reached the treatment room door, I happened to see Zhao Mushang walking out of the room. I stepped forward and supported his arm. How are you? Not too serious, right? Zhao Mushang shook his head, saying it was nothing. The three of us walked out of the hospital together. After getting in the car, Zhao Mushang took his usual seat. Just like before, he left a spot for me. But when Qianyu opened the passenger seat door first, Zhao Mushang froze. He kept looking back and forth between the two of us. Did something happen between you two that I don't know about? I felt a little embarrassed. I quickly sat in the back seat. I'll just sit in the back with Mushang. When Qianyu raised her eyebrows but didn't insist. After closing the door, she got into the driver's seat and drove the car away from the hospital. Zhao Mushang, however, didn't let me off the hook. He leaned in and whispered in my ear, tell me, what's going on between you two? What do you mean? Nothing's going on. I pretended not to understand, with an innocent expression. Don't pretend. You accepted his confession, didn't you? Zhao Mushang directly exposed my lie. I didn't really mean to hide it. I was just a little shy. Since he brought it up, I didn't hold back anymore. I nodded and admitted it. Yeah. He finally got what he wished for. Zhao Mushang teased with a smile. Then he thought of something and said to Wen Qianyu in the front seat, Wen, your wish came true. Shouldn't you treat us to a meal? Wen Qianyu nodded. Sure, let's invite our roommates too. The group picked a restaurant not far from Qingbai. The boy in restaurant. Zhao Mushang was in charge of contacting the others. Half an hour later, everyone had arrived one after another. When Qianyu's roommates had just sat down, when one of them asked, Girl, what's the occasion today? What made you suddenly want to treat us to dinner? And with such a grand gesture? Well, of course it's because our dear Wen has something good to announce. Zhao Mushang smiled and said, What good news? Come on, tell us. One of the girls' roommates also asked curiously. But she was asking the two of them. Zhao Mushang just looked at Wen Qianyu and me, who were sitting together, being stared at by several pairs of eyes. I felt a little uncomfortable. Wen Qianyu's face was also slightly red. Under the table, she quietly reached out her hand, held mine, and gave it a gentle squeeze. All right, this dinner is to announce something. I'm officially dating Case. Nice, girl, you finally got him. That's great. A perfect couple. Remember to invite us to the wedding in the future. Listening to everyone's blessings, I couldn't help but show a genuinely happy smile. Time passed by day. The weather had already turned to winter. On the road, I ran into Zhao Mushang, who had just returned from the school gate. Case, your sister came looking for you again. She's at the school gate right now. Since Yiswan had come to Qingbai several times, Zhao Mushang recognized her. I nodded okay. I got it. Why is she here again? Is the army really this free now? When Qianyu rolled her eyes beside me and muttered under her breath, I glanced at her and chuckled. Why don't you head to the library first? No, I'll go with you. I nodded. The two of us went to the school gate together. When the Siwan saw me, a hint of a smile flashed in her eyes. But when she saw the girl next to me, her smile slowly faded. Case, did you need something from me? The Siwan suppressed the bitterness in her heart and smiled. I thought since you'll be going home for the holidays soon, and I won't be back until the end of the year, I dropped by to say something. Also, I wanted to ask when exactly your break starts. I bought your train ticket in advance. I calculated the dates, just as I was about to speak. When Qianyu spoke up first, no need. I'll be going back with Case. So of course we'll buy the tickets together. Yiswan looked at Wen Qianyu, then lowered her eyes. After a pause, she said, "That's good too. If you're going back together, I can rest assured." Actually, Yiswan wanted to stay with me a bit longer, but she knew it wasn't appropriate. So she said, "I'm leaving now. You two go ahead." I nodded. "Drive safe, okay?" After saying that, Wen Qianyu and I turned and walked back into the campus. Yiswan saw the two walking side by side, the girl whispering something in the boy's ear. He smiled, bright and handsome, and she felt bitter inside. If she hadn't made that one wrong decision back then, maybe it would be her walking beside him now. But unfortunately, what's done is done, and time can't be reversed. After exams, Wen Qianyu and I returned to Fengyang village. The same white Lamborghini was parked in front of the Liu family house. Just as I was about to get out of the car, Wen Qianyu grabbed my hand, reluctant to let go. She said, "What if I go in with you and greet your parents?" I quickly shook my head. "No way. We agreed I'd talk to my family about us first. Then you'd come over." Wen Qianyu compromised. "All right, fine," but still didn't want to let go of my hand. Just as I was about to say something to comfort her, suddenly I heard a voice outside the car case. I immediately turned my head and ran straight into my parents. At that moment, I wished I could disappear into the ground. I couldn't help but shoot Wen Qianyu a glare. She hadn't expected to get caught either, but still smiled and quickly got out of the car with me. I stepped forward and hugged my parents. "Mom, Dad, I'm back." Wen Qianyu greeted them too. "Hello, Uncle Annie. We've met before. I'm Wen Qianyu." Lumu kept glancing between the two of us. Her expression didn't look too good. I didn't even dare to breathe too loudly. After a moment, Lumu finally said to Wen Qianyu, "I know you're Kei's classmate. Thank you for bringing him home. The weather is so cold. You should head home too." Wen Qianyu thought they'd ask about the two of us. She didn't expect to be dismissed so quickly. She suddenly felt unsure of what to do. I was also stunned, then quickly signaled Wen Qianyu to leave first. Left with no choice, she got in the car and drove off. After going inside, my parents chatted with me for a bit, then finally asked about Wen Qianyu. "You're dating that Wen Qianyu, right?" I knew I couldn't hide it and didn't plan to, so I nodded. I quickly added, "So does Sis. She knows about us and is okay with it." "Mom, Dad, you don't need to worry anymore." After hearing that, my parents finally let out a sigh of relief. After that, I helped them prepare for the new year, cleaned up the house, and occasionally went out with Wen Qianyu. And just like that, it was New Year's Eve. Didn't she say she'd be back today? It's already afternoon. Why isn't she here yet? Lumu kept looking out the door anxiously. "Mom, don't worry. If Sis said she'd come, she definitely will. Sis is back." As he spoke, a jeep drove over from afar and stopped at the front door. Yiswan got out of the car. Seeing me and Lumu rushing over, she said, "Mom. Kei's, I'm back." "It's good you're back. I was afraid you'd miss the New Year's dinner." I smiled and said warmly. The three of us went inside together. The reunion dinner was already prepared on the table. The whole family of four happily gathered around, enjoying the reunion meal. We even had a few drinks together. Dad couldn't handle his liquor, so Lumu helped him to bed to rest. Yiswan's face was also tinged with drunkenness, but she leaned on the chair, holding her head. I quietly asked, "Sis, did you get drunk too?" Yiswan shook her head, saying she wasn't drunk. She looked at the boy in front of her, fighting the urge to lean in and kiss him. "Kei's, I've never asked you this. Are you happy now?" I answered, "Of course, I'm very happy now." Yiswan nodded. "That's good." Then she stood up. "Come on. I bought some firecrackers. Let's go set them off." I followed her out into the yard, waving a Gatling firework joyfully in the air. Yiswan looked at his bright smile, her lips slowly curving upward. Let it be like this, to stand beside him as a sister. Perhaps that was already the greatest mercy heaven had given her.